Hey, it's time for a word with Ms. Word. And the topic for today's message is that love is a hands-on experience. I've had several conversations where people talked about some different things that might be common sense for this person or common sense for that person as it pertains to trying to date, trying to be in relationships, etc. But what's common sense for one is not necessarily common sense for another. But I want to offer you something to think about today. Love in and of itself is a hands-on experience. If you grew up in a family where you had both parents in the house, by today's standards, you were really fortunate. If you grew up with two parents in the house and they had a healthy, loving, unconditional, nurturing relationship, you really, really, really are doing something special by today's standards. But in any event, however you experienced intimate relationships with people when you were growing up, I have to ask the question, did people give you specific examples of what to say, what to do, how to act, or did they just expect that because of what you saw, because of what you thought you experienced in their experience, that you would just know? Sometimes dads will give their daughters some general advice, but what about those specific conversations where you need to tell them some of the real slick and smooth lines somebody who's not healthy for them will actually bring to them? And the same thing as far as daughters are concerned. Is mom or somebody just telling them, hey, you got to watch those girls, they'll be blah, 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 as opposed to saying what they actually need to look for in that healthy person, in that nurturing, loving person who's going to be a great mate for them. Are we expecting people to just do things like we would do in a book and expect, okay, here's the book, you're watching the book, you're reading the book, and now here's a test when real life hits? That's the way that we end up hurting each other and hurting ourselves. So I would encourage you today to think about some of those things that you had to deal with growing up and how you actually learned to love and how you're applying that in your relationships today, whether it be in your intimate relationships or relationships with others. Also, if there's a younger person that you can mentor and give them some really good information about what things they can look for that are going to help them, do that. And lastly, I want to talk about the discipline that we all should and could have. I was told before that a man or woman who's not disciplined is not a person who's ready for a committed relationship. If a person has not learned to discipline themselves in the small things in the world, how could they possibly learn to discipline themselves in something as large as being with and loving you? We've got to learn how to self-discipline. We have to learn that not everything is for us, that we sometimes have to step away from situations because they might not be healthy for us. But in the meantime, just remember, stop judging others because they make poor choices, because there's something in their life that made them make that poor choice, and focus on yourself and your own hands-on love experience. That's your word.